Morning. Hopefully all the stream's working good and the audio's still the same. I haven't really changed much. I've just slightly changed this camera angle. But we should now be live on Instagram as well, which I meant to do yesterday until I realised you meant to click a button that says go live that I never did the whole time. So we were technically streaming to Instagram without ever being on Instagram. And just the goal of this is to remove. We have a fully working Mac SE30 here, and we have the one we're trying to fix here, the reloaded board. The goal is to now remove as many things off this working board as we can and still get the Mac chime, because we don't even get the chime on this reloaded board. So that's pretty much the goal of this morning, is to kill this one as much as possible, remove as many components as we can while it still gives us a chime. And then what we can do is remove them components on here when we're dealing with a lot less possible issues. The only downside is then I've got to reinstall all of these chips onto both systems after, which is obviously not the end of the world, but it's, I think it's the best way of figuring this one out, because I can't figure out anything else about why, this was fully working and it's dead. So we're just going to have to go with that approach and also figure out this initial boot cycle, like why and what prevents the BIOS from not loading. And it's unlikely to be trace damage just because this is a new board. So we're going to ignore trace damage and presume random chip failure at the minute. And then all of these chips have been tested and swapped between them as well. So we know all these are good. I just want to keep them in the right order. So that's the two boards with what we've already removed on the sockets. This is the board as well I mentioned with dishwasher cleaning it. And now look how clean that is. So if we just zoom in on that, it's basically spotless now. So look how clean that board now is. Just flawless. Literally a shine. And there's nothing on. No flux anywhere. So if you really want to clean your boards, you don't need an ultrasonic cleaner. You just need to put it in the dishwasher. That's like super clean. So we're going to set this board aside for now, the working one. Sorry, not the working one, the one we want to fix. And we're going to focus on the working one, trying to break it basically. So let's just check that it still works like we always do, because Macs have a tendency to just die for no reason while you leave them overnight. Morning, thanks for joining in early on. Just going to do a few hours on this before the day kicks off, so probably 2 or 3 hours on this, and hopefully we'll get somewhere. And then, don't know if you can hear that, but still has the boot. So that's what we're listening for. Basically, that's what we want to keep going until we lose that. Now, we can remove most of the chips up here, which we could do. And I don't know whether to start up here, because we've already proven and removed most of these and it wasn't an issue. And this side is serial. So my doubts are that up here won't stop the death chime. I'm more focused about down here. I think this is going to be the problem area. So I think what we should be doing is really focusing on, I think, let's remove these chips. And I think I've already done this on the wiki, but let's do it again. I'm pretty sure these 3 can come off. And then we'll start with these. And when we lose the chime, we'll leave them back on. And we'll identify which ones of these are actually needed for boot. That's the goal. So not too scientific, just basically removing chips. I'm going to turn this one around because I don't want to burn the plastic here. So we'll try and keep the air aiming away from the sockets. We shouldn't need any protection on here because these will come off fairly quickly, and we're aiming the airflow away, so we should be okay to just remove these off. And I'm pretty sure these can go because they connect to RAM. That's why we're taking these off. There is no RAM. We'll keep them either in order or write down what chips are where. Ideally, I want to keep them in order, so it's easy to put back on. But I do have a few spares, so we could quite easily just look at the other Macs to figure out where they go back on. So those three off. Let's start with that. And again, we're just listening for the chime. So it's really quiet, so I'll just let you know if I hear it if you don't anyway. Yep, we've still got that. So those chips are okay to be off. And then we'll obviously make note of this on the wiki when we're done, just to double check. I've already done this once, but not to this extreme. We're going to remove absolutely everything we can. Next up, these are in question. These chips here. Now, I'd say these aren't needed because they look like they're in the vicinity of the RAM. And again, we don't need RAM to get this chime, so I'm just going to remove them as well. Probably put a little bit of flux on here as well, because these look a little bit like they need a reflow anyway, so while I'm taking them on and off, we might as well clean the pins up a little bit. It's going to be interesting when we finally figure out what's actually causing this as well, because this is definitely a mystery on the other board why it's just failed. I'll try to keep these in a kind of visual layout on my desk as well. So you should be able to. Now I've got this nice pan and tilt camera. I'm just going to keep them down here, basically in order as they're coming off visually as well. So it's a little bit easier to remember where they go. Them two up. And I don't really need to let the board cool between removing components, because the components I'm removing, the area's hot, but there's no other chips in that area. So there's nothing that really needs to cool down to boot. If I get to certain places where I'm going to be inadvertently warming up chips that are still on, we'll let the board cool. But until then, there's no need to wait. Yep, still get the boot. So they can be off. Next up is these three chips. So, well, 6 chips I reckon we'll go for. Let's just remove all of these. And they are F258s, every one of them. So all these are interchangeable. They're all the same chip. So we can just remove them all. Same thing, I'm going to put a bit of flux on, just to reflow this board, because this board, I think the one we're working on, hasn't been fully serviced by the looks of it. This is one, let me just check. Yeah, this is one I actually bought broke that we've just fixed up. So this was just basically a completely stock Mac. So reflowing these solder joints won't do it any harm either. It's ideally it's needed. And then I think, hey, morning from California. I'm sure you've got better weather than us as well. Ours has just turned pretty cold in the last few days now. So I won't complain, I like wearing hoodies though, but I think I prefer your weather. I think when we've removed these as well, we'll take a photo of where we're up to, so that when we finally get minimal boot, we've got a visual for the wiki to kind of show where we're, somebody can just look at the photo and easily see without having to read chips, what chips you can remove if you're trying to get, basic minimal boot up. I'm sort of hoping that we land on a solution in this area. I don't want to have to start removing all these just because I'm fairly confident this isn't the problem. I'm hoping we find an issue down here. But knowing our luck, we'll end up with a completely empty board, absolutely nothing on it, and still not get to the solution yet. That's all them chips removed. Let's try again. Yep, still boot. So now I'm pretty sure these pull-ups are required, these 3, and I wrote it on the wiki. Let me just check my original notes a moment. Because like I said, I've done this before, it's just, I've forgot literally what I've done. So, very minimal boot. Expected boot. Where have I put it in? Yeah, this is just a bit of a rough guide I've done. I can just show you on the screen as well. If I drag this over. I'm just basically looking on the wiki for the notes I originally made when I worked on one. And I wrote somewhere that the RPs were needed. I know I did. It's just where did I put it? Maybe it's in very minimal boot. There we go, RP 7 and 9. So I've wrote that RP 7 and 9 are needed. Where's my mouse gone? There we go. Which means I've said those 2 are needed for boot. So let's leave them 2 on. Or, no, tell you what, let's take them off just to prove it. We'll take off 8 because that sounds like it definitely isn't needed. And then we'll take off 9 just to see if it is needed and put it back on if so. Because even though I made those notes, I always like to double check. We're not taking any presumptions on this board. We want to treat it like we know nothing, basically. Otherwise, we're going to potentially miss something if we make presumptions. The FPU here isn't needed for a fact because I've removed it before, but I also don't want to remove that chip until like further on because it's right next to the RAM slots and the potential for melting them even if you protect them is quite high. So we'll leave the FPU on. We'll tackle the simplest ones first. Alright, so that should be bootable with that. Let's see if we still get audio. I don't think we do, No. So I think that's at the point where we've removed something that we actually need. Yep, so we don't get it. So I haven't written that on the wiki, hence why we make these notes. So RP8 is crucial. I guess while we're doing this as well, if we find something that's crucial, let's have a quick glance at the schematics as to potentially why that's crucial. So let's chuck this on screen. And let's have a look at which one are we? RP8. So the first thing we've got to do is find RP8 because the schematic isn't searchable, unfortunately. I can open up it in KiCad and search, but then it's a little bit more work. So these are all the ROM slots here, these 4. This is the big glue chip just above. So the RPs are likely going to be somewhere near I'd say the processor. So there's an RP6, we're after RP8. And it will be like this visually. It's fairly easy to see, so we could in fact zoom out and you're looking for these packs of resistors. So there's RP5, here's one, RP1. So at least visually they're going to be nice and fast to find and identify. We say that and then we can't find it. Have they changed the shape? So they changed the shape to this. So here we go. Here's RP8, 7 and 9. So RP8 is the one we've removed. Yes, it is. So if we looked at, I can chuck that over the top at the same time. We've removed RP8, which is here. And on the schematic, RP8 is pulling up address lines for a start. Test mode, so maybe it just goes into test mode without that on, but there's also other signals, so page 3, PWR, interrupt, CIIN. I think the address lines are probably the most crucial, PU2, but either way, that's clearly crucial. So we know RP8 is crucial, RP9 and RP7. RP7 is definitely crucial because it's pulling up the halt line and the buzz error, sorry. So we don't even need to remove 7. We know that's crucial because we're reading here. RP9, I don't know what the PD15 is, PD1, PD8. So let's put on 8, make sure it works. And then we'll take off 9. We know 7 is definitely needed. So let's just confirm it still works when we put 8 back on. And this is just basically process of elimination with this fix. It's just, well, not fix, this is trying to figure out minimum boot, but we're just going through systematically finding out what chips are needed to boot, at least to a sound. So 8 is back on. We're going to have to let this cool because obviously we're using this resistor, so we're going to have to wait for it to cool. In the meantime, the already started to warm up that plastic. I'm going to take this off anyway, so not too fussed about that. This real-time clock isn't needed for boot. We've proved that because you can remove this clock and then this doesn't have anything. We could potentially remove it, but I can't see any pins pulling the system down. So again, likelihood of this being a problem is minimal, so we'll leave him for now. We want to focus on the main culprits. I'd say for failure, random failure, these would probably be next. You want to remove them. The audio we know isn't needed. I've proved that multiple times. So this, and this aren't needed. So I'm going to leave them on this board because I know we can remove them. I've already got them removed on the other board. So we don't have to remove them off this board because I know they can be removed, and we will remove them on the reloaded board if we need to. This is almost definitely needed. So I think what we have here, we've got the CPU, the glue. We 100% know they're both needed. This is needed. We proved it by removing it. This I'm pretty sure is needed. The crystal's needed. So we can remove this chip just to be absolutely certain, but I'm 99% sure that is going to be needed to boot, at least to make some sound. So now we should have audio on this still. So let's just check. Yep, so we have audio again. So that proves RP8's needed. And now the question was, RP9 we know. No, RP7 we know for sure. RP9, let's remove RP9. Because I might have made a note wrong on the wiki, and I might have wrote 7 and 9, and it's actually 7 and 8 that are needed. 9 might not be needed, because according to my notes it says 7 and 9 are needed and 8 isn't, and we've just proven that wrong. So I've obviously made a mistake on the notes. And that felt a little sticky coming off as well. Let's just inspect that. Yeah, it's fine. It just felt a little bit sticky as well. Could have been a little bit of flux or something else holding that down. A little bit warm, but that should be fine to boot. So now we're expecting, is the speaker on? Yeah. We're expecting to still get, I think we'll get audio still because I think RP9 is not needed. Oh, that's me wake up alarm, if I'm well awake. Yeah, so RP9 is needed. So all three of them are needed because we get no audio. So these three pull-ups are all crucial. So let's put him back on. And we'll remove, at the same time, this LS30 here, UU6. So we'll put RP9 back on and we'll take UU6 off at the same time. And to be honest, if I was smart, what I should do, in fact what I will do, is, well, let's just put this back on for now for how quick it is to take off. We should really be swapping these components onto the other board. So as we find the crucial components, like these RPs, we should swap them between the non-working board to, at the same time, prove those crucial components are okay. So we'll start doing that now. I'll put these three, I'll remove all them from the other board and put these three on, and let's see if we've got anywhere, because we might have already, you know, might find out we've fixed it before we go any further. Plus then, while we're waiting for this to cool, we can bring in this other board, leave that cooling, and let's just remove. No, I don't want to put flux on my nice clean board either. So all this has been dishwashed, super clean. So I think I mentioned this yesterday. If you dishwash the board, look how clean that is now. So look at the shine that would show up flux. There's not a thing on this board now. Absolutely perfectly clean, top and bottom. Just nothing on the board, totally flawless. But I guess I'll just dishwasher it again after. So on this one, let's do the same. Let's remove all these 9 here, and then we'll swap these 3 over from the working board to make sure, even though we've measured them with a multimeter, that doesn't always prove that chips are good. Like resistor packs can fail under load, so multimeter tests are just a hint. I want to be careful around these new connectors as well. So even though these come off easy, I'm going to just be double cautious and put down this metal and also aim the air away at the same time. So we really need to be like this. So we're aiming away from these, keeping that there for the air, and trying to get an angle like this. So it's quite an awkward angle, but it's the one that will give us least heat on the sockets here that we want to protect, because we've taken ages to install them. And let's just flux this board up. We'll clean it again after. Oh, he's already come off. Barely even warmed the board up. So maybe we don't need the metal. Might be quicker just hot airing and lifting off, but that's a little bit concerning that that's come off that easy, to be honest. That was hardly any heat, and that was off. But this isn't a crucial thing anyway to boot, so I don't think it's necessarily going to be a problem. I'm just amazed how easy that's come off. And that's them 3 off. We can remove the protection because the rest are far enough away. These other ones we're going to move to this side, so we're going to have the working ones over here and the non-working ones, or at least what we suspect, obviously non-working board over here, so we know the difference. Oh, we've got these down here as well. Let's take them off. Again, these are next to the plastic we want to protect, so put that on and aim down and away, and then hopefully we won't melt any plastic. Get them out of the way a minute. There's one way off. There we go. There we go, quick enough. And then we want to remove these 9 as well, or these 6. We've already taken 3 of them off. Let's get the air going this way, out the way of all them connectors. And the reason we're removing all these is because even if things aren't crucial, if they're pulling down lines or they're faulty and you're doing something to the voltage or any of the other signals, they can cause issues even though they wouldn't typically be needed to get to a certain stage of boot. So if you have, say, a SCSI chip up here sitting on the data bus and the SCSI chip isn't needed to at least hear the sound, if it was faulty though and pulling down the data bus, then it would stop boot. So it's ideal to have the bare minimal amount of chips on a board if you're trying to diagnose what we're trying to diagnose here, which is a very early on boot. So with those off, we have, see this board again, warping very easily. We've barely done any heat on it and it warps. So obviously all boards will warp with heat, but this has had almost no heat and we've already got a bit of board flex in it. Whereas the originals don't seem to do that. So whether it's this metal plate maybe not quite soldered in at the right height or something helping with bowing, but just something I noticed with these remade boards, they do seem to bow quite a bit easier. Let's put this in. And do we get audio? I doubt we will, but still worth checking. Is that cool enough? Oh, let's just wait for the chips to cool them in because the FPU is quite warm, so these resistor packs are going to be a little bit warm as well. I can see me knocking these chips off. Let me get a bit of cardboard and put these out the way because I just know I'm going to knock these. All those don't need to be in order because they're the same chip. These 3 resistor packs are the same, but we'll put them in order. And these 2 are down the bottom. So that's them, and I'm going to put these, where am I not going to knock these? Probably everywhere. So all the way back there. So if I'm careful, I won't knock them anywhere. Let's try if we get audio. No, so as expected, no change there. Now let's check if the working board gets audio with UU6 removed. So that was where we were at with this other board. Yep, so UU6 isn't needed. So what I'm going to do now, which is what I said we should do before we get too far in, is we'll remove that chip from the other board as well, but we're going to hot swap these 3 over between the 2 boards to make sure that these components that are critical are good. We'll then hot swap this over because it's socketed to make sure that's good. We'll then remove this one and hot swap him. So that's the goal. So let's just, I can do this side by side fairly quickly. What's this one now? That is UU6. So that would be up there. Right. a bit of flux. And doing it at the same time will save a little bit of time because the boards will be warm, so the swapping will be a bit easier. Got to try and keep track of the swapping over as well, so I don't end up swapping the wrong chips back on or the same chips back over. Yeah, this new board definitely doesn't take heat as well as the originals. Like even the solder's taking ages to cool down. It's not got a good thermal mass at all. And then that means up to this point, once these are on as well, we have known good working ROMs and known good working resistor packs. The 68K we're pretty sure is working because it's pulsing the data lines. The glue chip's already been swapped, so that's also known good. So everything up to this point we're pretty sure is working. Early one, pretty normal for me, to be honest. I'm normally awake with the sun, really, so just as the sun comes up I tend to wake up. So in summers I'm normally up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and now it's getting a bit later on. I just wake up. I don't even, well, I have an alarm, but I'm always up before the alarm. I just literally wake up naturally to sunlight. Plus I love getting a load of stuff done before anyone's awake. A couple of coffees in, a few hours work, and then people come in after and start working, and you feel like you've got a load of free time that you've achieved stuff before everyone's started. that's U6, put him out the way. There at the bottom, there at the top, that's up there. So, out the way there. Right, yeah, this I'll say it every single time at the minute, but this new flux, this Stiri ASM flux is so sticky. So I love the fluxes. Their mixer flux are the best I've used, but this one is definitely stickier. Especially all over me. Nice, clean dishwasher board. Let's see where we're at. Right, so that's got all the good working chips on. The audio's on. Hopefully we don't get audio because then we found the problem, but we do get audio, so that's not the problem on that. Swap over. Double check just for clarity that we definitely don't get audio on this one, in case it was bad solder joints. Nope. But we now know those are good. I'll probably engrave a little smiley face on them, because the problem with marking these with green markers every time we clean the board, they come off. So I'm just going to put a little smiley face on. I tend to do when I know the chips are good. And in the orientation of upright on the board. So when you come to reinstall them, it's also a good indicator you've installed them the right way up. Oh, this is run out of charge. Let's put this on charge then. So now let's swap this chip from the socket between the two boards. We know it's crucial for boot because I've already removed it and proven that that's definitely needed to boot. So we don't need to kind of remove it and power up, because I know I've done it multiple times. But we'll put this one over there. This one over here. And then no audio, and I presume this one will still get audio. Yep, I've got a sneaky suspicion we're going to be dealing with trace damage, even though we didn't have trace damage. Well, that's the most unlikely thing on this board with it being new. Next up, I think then we'll swap this little chip here. So where are we? We'll swap UH7. If we take a look at the schematic, let's see if we can find what UH7 actually does. We've got to find it first. So we're looking for, it's probably going to be somewhere near the PALS or the glue chip maybe. UBS sound, UG12, we're off to UH7. Not on that page. And the more you study schematics, you start getting used to where things are. So when I've worked on a few more of these, I'll probably be able to find these chips a lot quicker. There's the VIA, so it won't be there. The glue, right, it's got to be on this page then, surely. There you go, UH7. So this one deals with the RAM. So it's got the RAS line, the write line, the RAS address and buzz, the column address and buzz. So it's all about RAM. So to be honest, I don't think this is probably needed. I reckon this might work without that connected. No, I don't think humidity really affects anything. We don't really get much difference in the UK, to be honest, but in the boards in general, no, the hot air would dry out anything on the board that would really affect it. I don't personally think it makes much difference, but my experience is solely in this room, really. So I've only really got my experience to go off, but The only thing I'd say with humidity is if it's trapped in the board itself, like old boards with moisture in, then you can get delamination or bubbling. So the board will, the moisture inside will warm up and bubble out. That's the only issue you can get. Good morning, welcome back. We're trying to fix the final SE30, the reloaded board. And we're just basically removing chips at the minute and swapping between the working board and the non-working to try and remove as many chips as we can and still get the max sound. That's the goal of what we're doing at the minute. That one needs to go on there. So you'll also notice on here I actually caught it with my tweezers at some point. This is one of my boards, so just notice the nice little scratch there. I don't know how I did it, but at some point I caught tweezers on this board and scraped that tray, so I've just got to make sure that stays intact, otherwise we won't get boot. And we should probably get some conformal coating on it. What's the issue you're having with the soldering specifically? Like what kind of thing? Because it's soldering isn't nothing's really that hard on soldering. It's a lot easier than it looks if you just have the right technique. I think like with the Game Gears doing the ASIC swaps, everybody has been struggling right up until releasing the re-PCBs, and then I just decided to release a video on exactly what temperatures and times to follow. And based on feedback in the Discord, people that have never even done hot air swapping before can do it first time. So a lot of it is, if you can follow an exact guide or an exact set of steps, you should be able to solder pretty much anything. It's just, obviously, when I come to solder new stuff, I don't necessarily know how to, do things on that board. Every board's different. So like the connector on the Game Gear, I'm still not very good at removing them connectors because I tend to just chuck them at Zach and he removes them for me. So it's like something I haven't really removed many of, and I'm still not that good at it. Right, so that chip is needed to make sound, unless I've taken that trace off that I repaired. Let me just double check I hadn't. There, he's still good. He goes under and over, but yeah, he looks. I'll double check with a multimeter. What like chips are you soldering? Is it normal chips, like SMD chips, through-hole chips, BGAs? Is it like anything you struggle with, or just in general struggle? Because if it's in general, it's probably just your equipment. Your flux, your solder, your iron, your temps. There's a lot that, if you give me a bad iron or the wrong temp, I won't be able to solder at all. So you've got to get like the foundations right first. Otherwise, you could really struggle. Yeah, that's still on, but I'm just going to chuck some conformal coating on that while I'm here. Don't know why I didn't do it when I fixed the damage. Zoom in on that digitally, so we can see the mess I made of my own board there. This is something I actually did. I think I did it at some point when I was doing these sockets. I just caught the board. Oh, that's going to clean out. And then just putting some of this clear conformal coating on, so like basically a clear gel will help if we're warming the board up, stopping the wire from just lifting off where it's soldered. There's a point. Where's my little UV tool I don't use anymore because I rarely need it. Let's see if I can nick Zach some in. I'll put some of my tools away because I don't tend to use them that much. And then this is just a UV cured, basically like a UV cured resin almost. And now that should be, yeah, touch hard. So that shouldn't come off and those pads are still exposed. That's that fixed. Yeah, so back to what we were meant to be doing now. So that is crucial for boot. So let's put this known working one on this board at the same time. So the working one's on the left if I forget in a minute and ask where it's gone or which one's which. What soldering iron and stuff have you got as well, like soldering iron and solder? Because one of your main things will be, if your soldering iron is no good, you can get a really good cheap iron, you don't need to pay money. Get something like a TS80 or a TS100, they're like £60–70 USB-C powered, and they're literally good enough to do this work. I could be doing this work on it, so you don't have to spend masses of money on it, but your iron would be the first thing most people buy. You know, like an all-in-one kit with flux and solder, and it's not the best stuff. And then second to that, I'd say, would be your solder. You want to make sure you've got leaded solder. It melts much easier, flows much better. The only time you're not allowed to do it is if you're doing commercial repairs on equipment that's newer. So we can even use it for retro computers, because back when these were about, you were allowed to use leaded solder. So to do repairs on them, you're also allowed to use leaded solder, if that makes sense. But if I was repairing a PS5, technically you're not allowed to use leaded solder. Good. Put this one onto this board. Yep, flux is definitely important. I think if you get good solder, then the flux inside the solder will help you initially, but obviously it's only good for running the very first line down a chip, and then you'll need flux afterwards. But I tend to find most people it'll almost always be the soldering iron or the solder that they've not got right, basically, that'll, you know, make you feel like you can't do something that if you sat with a decent soldering iron, flux and solder, you'd feel like you've improved your skill level massive without really doing much else. Temperature as well is another thing, even if you've got a good or bad iron. I see a lot of people running the iron way cooler. Like I run mine. What do I run mine at? No, it's not even turned on. We've not even used my soldering iron today. No, we haven't, have we? Let's try and point this. Oh. Is soldering iron not even working? No. Soldering iron's dead. Let me just check. It's just falling out the back. So, see, this is just a clone off AliExpress. This is just a clone of a JBC iron, and I've got mine set to 390. And I can run it, and do normally run it, 420. It's just the tip lasts a bit longer. But there's so many people that'll use, they'll set up the iron and they'll run it like, 300 degrees. Just run it hot, you're not going to do any damage. Run it hotter until you're used to it, and then lower it down until it starts becoming not as efficient. That's all I do with any iron. I don't necessarily set it to a temp. I'll just crank up the temp max, use it, and then lower it down 10 degrees at a time until, it still performs the way I want it to. Right, so I haven't really checked these under a scope, but with my eye they look okay, and they're a tiny chip, so hopefully the soldering's all good. And that still works, so soldering's obviously good. Chip is very likely good. Let's just confirm. Let me just get the other speaker as well, so I'm not swapping speakers. And let's just put the known working speaker in this one first, and put the spare speaker in this one. Otherwise, we could be dealing with a bad speaker as well. Nope, so nothing with that on. We're getting no thermals either. Lazy thermal check. I know we've checked this multiple times, but we'll keep checking. Nope, okay, carry on. So next up, I think then, we've proven that. Let's take a look at these a minute. Let's see where we're up to. Zoom out a bit. There we go. So we know CPU is needed, and I don't want to have to swap that. It's a massive job. We're going to make the presumption that certain things work that are going to be a lot of work to do, and then we'll rotate back to them if we have to, but we're going to presume the CPU is good. This we know is good because I've swapped it. So let me just engrave that one. I'm thinking we need the little smiley faces on things we know work so we don't get lost. This one I know for a fact works because I swapped it in the last video. Between boards, so we know he's good. We're presuming he's good, so we're not going to mark him. We don't need him, but we haven't checked. This we know is good, so little face up here. In the corner. We know he's good now because we've just done it. There we go. We know they're good. They've all got faces on. Nothing else is needed down here. I've seen these boots, so we know they're good. So that's where we're up to. I think now we will remove all these components, I think almost in one go. I'm thinking just wipe all them out, but this is the other thing I kind of want to do. If we're dealing with bad audio, I know we're not because we've probed, but say we were, I'd like to be able to remove anything related to audio and probe a pin that shows activity, that as if it's making the Mac sound, which it's not at the minute, like we're not getting it. So some of these might be needed just for audio, but I suppose if we swapped all these out and just swapped them between the boards, that'd also be a solution. So let's just quickly look at the schematic and see if we can see if any of these are related to sound. So we have the all number 8, so the U, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now, they might not all be related to the same thing, but they're all number 8, basically, because they're all in a line. So at the top, we're not there. Not at RAM. Not there. So we're probably going to be here, maybe. Yeah, there you go. So you got UF8, so that's related to shift registers, so that's related to video. So we're going to lose video, which we're not bothered about. So UF8 is okay. Did we even have UF? Yeah, we did. So UF8 is video that we're going to lose, but I don't think there's any feedback that holds anything in reset that I know of. UG is the same thing, a binary counter, all for the clock. UD, UB, UA, UC, they're all related again to video. So it looks like all of those, unless we've missed any, we've got A, B, C, D, FG, there's E. So they're all video, basically. Everything on there is video. So we could remove, well, we haven't got any video chips on, so we should be able to remove all these and still get audio. Just turn that sound off so he stays powered on. We should be able to take all these off and have no problem. And then, again, I can't see it affecting the booting anyway. So we might be wasting a time, but it's nice and quick. And they are all... Are they all the same chip? I can't even see. I think they're different chips, so we're going to have to keep these in order. Probably easier to look at this one. They are FS 530s, the first 4. And yeah, it says on the board, so F5, 523. Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah. There you go. Not that they obviously work because this isn't a problem as such, but F523. Or F253. Oh no, I'm partially dyslexic, but it keeps reading 523 and it literally says 253. That's right. I was thinking it was saying 523, but the chip's saying 253. I can't even read. So the first 4 are the same, and then these are the LS160. Oh, these are different. So we really kind of need to keep them in order. Otherwise, we're going to get mixed up. So, well, we can read on the chips what they are, but you can see these chips don't really have any visual at all. So I might just quickly engrave him so I can actually see if we take it off, we know what they are. So we know they're all 8, so they just need a letter. So we can just label it EFG. There we go. So now we can't get them mixed up. Those are all the same. So that's all we need to do on that. Now let's take these off, all in a big line. We could take the sound off, but again, we've already had this out, so we're getting to the point of that's not, see, realistically, they're not the issue. These are likely all that's needed. So I think I can see us gutting everything on this board and something's still not working the way it's going at the minute, but let's just keep going. But I think we're going to end up with almost everything off the board and something really like potentially investigating a broken trace. But let's not presume things just yet. Those are off. Let's do the same on this board. Right, let's just keep these out of the way as well. We don't need these in order now as such because they're labelled, but we do need them at least in the right box so we know which system they've come off. The only regret I've got with the, well, not really a regret as such, but with the Reloaded board, is that we put these sockets on because the ROM was bad, this socket was bad, but it doesn't allow us to easily, fiddle with the ROM, check the ROM, read the ROM, and getting these out of these sockets, even though the sockets, that I literally broke 2 getting them out of sockets, so I had spares, but I've even got the extraction tool, and it is not that good. It's, you pull and it just rips the pins. So I really don't want to remove them. But the brand new chips, they're in sockets, and I have seen it boot with them. So I don't think that's an issue, but that's one thing that's, you know, I can't really easily recheck, which is annoying because I'd like to. I mean, I guess we could pull these out and, you know, risk it. And I've got a few more spare if they do break. So we might end up coming to that. But it's, again, unlikely to be that because they're brand new and it's been working. We'll do the same with this, actually. Let's label them E, F, and G. Let's clean them first. And at this point, to be honest, the other question I had is if I pay from New Zealand, we've got quite a few people from all over at the minute. If I'm removing so many chips from this, do I just go ahead and buy a reloaded board and make another reloaded? Because by the time I've removed this many things, we're likely going to have removed a lot of this. It's still quite a lot more work, don't get me wrong, to, you know, do all these. You know, there's a lot of stuff. But you can already see this board's got some bodge wire from the factory here, this trace that got damaged, a cut under here. It's like, do I just do a slow transplant onto an SE30 reloaded myself as well? Once we've stripped this down, building this back up onto this existing board is probably not massively more work than just making another reloaded board out of it. But we'll see where we get with this first, because if we solve it fairly quick, then I probably wouldn't bother, but depending how far we strip this down, it might just be worth putting this on a reloaded board. Starting removing, didn't even do what I said I was doing, putting the little writing on. E, F, G. There we go. You can see how much more this board absorbs the heat as well compared to the reloaded board. It just doesn't absorb heat at all very well. Like, it doesn't dissipate heat very well, the new board, compared to the old. This is a Mac SE30. We've been fixing 3 over the last few days, so got the SE30 here, like a working front end, if you will. This is a working board we're trying to break, so it's broken in the same way as the other one, basically. Or more correctly, we're removing chips until this one stops giving us a sad Mac sound, and then once we get that, we know we've got the bare minimum components on the board, and we can start diagnosing, because I've got a feeling we're going to be dealing with either a bad chip, I was hoping, but I'm starting to suspect the further we go, we're going to be dealing with a broken trace. Even though this is a brand new, it's a brand new board, it's a remade board, and this is the old components, but these are new, sockets are new. So a fact of a broken trace is highly unlikely, but it's also not out of the question. This has had a lot of work done by the customer and me, so we could be dealing with a broken trace. If we are, then it's a little bit of a pain because it's long and slow, and I suppose, to be honest, no different than this though. This diagnostics way is not exactly the most exciting, but it's critical to find out what components we need to boot. Basically, we need the absolute bare minimum on this board, so if we are looking at trace damage, we can focus on, you know, say just these 5 chips and not thinking about anything else on the board. We want to really nail down where we need to look and focus the investigation. Right, so that's the video chips off, which again I'm highly doubting they're going to be a problem, but at least they're off now. So what we should get again is audio. So let's check the working one first. speaker on. I presume we get audio. We do. Interestingly, that's a lot louder now. Or is that just the speaker? Difference in speaker. Because that was a lot quieter, wasn't it, before? But we have swapped speaker on that, so that might be why. And nothing. But let's just put this other speaker back and hear him in. Just more curious than anything. The fact that that's got so much louder. These are all the same boards as the last video, yeah. There's 3 of them. 2 of them are now working. Yes, that's a little bit quieter than the other. This one's fully, like 2 originals are fully working, but I'm purposely trying to break this one. I'm trying to remove as many components as I can until we lose the chime, so we know it's not booting. And then we can use that info with the bare minimum amount of chips to start diagnosing very specific things. But so far we've removed most of this board, to be honest. There's we know CPU's needed, glue's needed, this PAL and this PAL are needed, these 3 pull-ups are needed, FPU isn't needed, but I just don't want to melt them plastic, so I'm trying to leave him on. That isn't needed, just not worth taking off for now. The ROM's needed, all that's gone, RAM's gone, video circuit's gone. So it looks like really to get a chime, we should just be dealing with, I reckon, this little circle here, plus this. And I don't think VIA, SWIM, ADB, the SCSI, and then the diagnostics up here, I don't think any of that's needed. So I don't think any of this is needed. But for sound, we need this, these 2, and that. So I think we could literally wipe out this entire top board as well and have the chime still. But it's just the more we remove, the more work we've got, and I'm beginning to suspect that it's going to be traced. But we did commit to this and say that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to wipe out chips off the top and just go for it. So let's make sure they're all labelled. UK. That one I can't see. Yeah, the vertical isn't obviously going to show as much as horizontal. I do try and make sure you can see, but the other option is I just stream in horizontal on all the channels. I did it by mistake yesterday, but I think vertical does obviously limit your view, so you can see stuff, but I am, sort of focusing on the horizontal view. We get a lot more interaction, I think, from the horizontal as well. I suppose you'd have to let me know, because to be honest, most of the viewers seem to be, we get most of the comments from YouTube, but we get most of the views from Facebook, but Facebook's vertical, so it's like, it doesn't have to be. We can obviously swap it to horizontal. I think vertical, people absolutely hated when I had I put a horizontal on TikTok, because most of my followers are on TikTok. That's where I kind of seem to get most of the views, like 30,000 views a video versus 200 on YouTube. I swapped it to horizontal and everybody hated it. So they like the vertical. But now I'm doing live streams. I think there seems to be a lot more interaction on YouTube than anything else, in terms of, even if the views aren't as high, you get most of the interaction. So I think the horizontal works for maybe at least this format. And I'm just going to wipe out all these chips in one go, because I know they're not needed for I'm pretty sure they're not needed for SADMAC sound. In fact, I say I'm going to do them all. I'll do these 3 in check again. The last thing we want to do is remove all these, lose sound, and then have to put them all back on one at a time. I never thought about that. That's them 3 off. Yeah, you could do that, I guess. I mean, we have the chat popping up at the minute in stream, so you get the odd spam, but you could just watch it in horizontal and the chat will still pop up. Just doesn't obviously show for, I think it shows for like 15 seconds, then goes off. Let's check we've still got chime. I am very tempted to make a reloaded board. I don't fancy putting all these chips back on. Might just leave them off. Oh, it's a good job we did that. We've lost audio. I did not expect that. Like, we lost. Seems like we've lost everything. Can't even hear the speaker kick in. That's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely unexpected. No way, rain in Sweden already. I think your weather's probably similar to ours then. We've had really good weather until a few days ago, and now it's terrible. Like, I don't mind the cold. I love the cold, I just hate the rain. Why is that now working? Okay, maybe things were just a bit too hot there. That was a little bit strange how we didn't get audio. Oh, the speaker not working. My brand new speaker broken already. Now it's okay. I just had power cycle the speaker. So that's something to be careful of as well. Yep, okay. So that's more like it. That doesn't affect boot. Yeah, I think the best weather is where you get about 2 weeks in between it going sunny and cold. So we've already had it now, but there's a couple of weeks where it's still sunny, but it's not too warm. So it's just like autumny. The only thing I don't like about the cool weather in the winters is literally just the darkness. Otherwise, I'd literally have more time. I'd be up at, like, say, 4 o'clock working away, and it's light till 9, 10 at night. It's ace that you get just more hours in your day. When it's dark early, you basically wake up, go work, and it's dark and you feel like you've got to go to bed. It's a bit depressing, the kind of early dark nights. I'm not a fan of that. Marking on. I don't think we've marked the swim chip. Just check. Drop it. Geez, this is an escape chip. It's going everywhere. No, we haven't marked that, so let's engrave him with UJ11. Oh yeah, it's horrible. We can have dark here, literally, and I'm not joking, you can have dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When you've already got a bad day with rain and clouds, you can literally be almost in darkness at 3. It's horrible. Like, the sun will come out at 7, 8 in the morning and be gone at 3 in the afternoon. It's terrible. Such a miserable time when you have the dark nights, or dark days, basically. I don't think this is going to stop it, but we'll still test. This was the floppy disk chip we just removed, so floppy disks connect there. Yep, that still boots. Right, next, the SCSI we know for a fact isn't needed because we've removed that 20 times trying to fix this exact board. So we know it's not the problem, but we'll still remove it. And then diagnostics chip, I guess we might as well remove. there's a point. This board doesn't work with diagnostics either when it died, and we were using an iron here. I wonder if this chip's bad. That might be something that makes sense. We might remove him in a minute. No, let's remove him now. I'm curious now, because I wonder if the diagnostics chip, the fat diagnostics, doesn't work on this as well. Mind you, diagnostics won't work because it's not booting, but either way, I'm just going to whip this chip off just for, I'm now intrigued, going on a suspicion. Right, let's engrave him first. Oh, he already is. G12, yeah, so he's already engraved. Where's my tweezers go? There. Yeah, not jealous at all. Being able to be out at 9. You can do over here. Like we've had some really good summer this year, to be honest. We've had probably light until 10 at night sometimes, but now, like literally now, it's setting in. It's definitely going dark, 6, 7 o'clock-ish, I'd say, and it does literally pull in. It's going to start pulling in fast, and we'll be in darkness before we finish work. So you come home from work in pitch black. See if this works now. We just basically started gutting half of the board as an intuition. Remove something from here, and then we're just gonna have to pull a load of stuff back on. But I think if we even get this working, I'll probably carry on doing on this board what I wanted to do, which is remove the bare, like everything that we can to find the bare minimal boots. It's valuable info, and the fact we've come this far, I think I'd still carry on with that anyway. But let's see if this boots now. Be ace if it did, but I doubt it will. Now, there goes that thought out the window. Let's just carry on where we were, which is removing, that can go in there. Ow, that was way too hot to pick up. Let's carry on removing these chips. At some point, I think, well, we're not far off, when these chips are off up here, we're going to have to diagnose how we check if the system's booting to the SADMAC tone without sound, because we could be dealing with like a bad sound circuit, although it's really, really unlikely because you don't get any data activity. So I guess that's kind of, that answers that question in one. If you've got a mad SADMAC tone, you see constant buzz activity on the data. So I guess even if nothing else, if there was some tone or anything else, you'd still see activity. So you can kind of ignore that, I guess. See, I might also break this board doing this, because as I've seen with I've got the writing on. Yeah. As I've seen with doing these sockets, removing them super careful, it still broke a trace inside the board. So me removing these, we might end up knackering this working one, but hopefully we won't, and if we do, we'll just make another SE30. 2 more chips out of the way. We're basically building a Mac from scratch, aren't we, really, if we build this back up. We're not going to get anything left on this board, really. You know what I might do? I might get me a PCB factory to make me one of these SE30s, if I can find the BOM easy enough with everything on. Make it with everything already installed in terms of all the logic chips, all of the caps, the resistors, the sockets. I could have them build it, but it's just a bit like it's a lot of work for a one-off. Unless anybody would be interested in potentially fully socketed and populated boards with everything that we can source, so crystals, caps, power connectors. Presume these are maybe sourceable as well. Fuses, buttons, literally try and make a board come from factory almost fully assembled, because a lot of these chips aren't specific to the Mac. A lot of them are just sockets and logic chips and caps and resistors. So we could even have it come from factory with these ROMs installed and programmed. Batteries installed, real-time clocks installed, 68K installed or socketed, because that's something you can buy, but you could also just leave that as a socket, because that's probably an expensive CPU now, probably another £20 or something. But yeah, there's a possibility there. If there's anybody that wants these almost fully assembled, I could maybe run a little batch off from the factory and get a price. So probably Josh is the best one to ask people in the Mac world if that's something they might want as well, and then I could always run a batch off. Just warming the pads back up to wipe the flux off as well, if you're wondering what I'm doing, because once flux cools down, it's 10 times harder to clean off. Just warm the area back up with hot air, clean while it's hot. It's the best way. I don't think so, and it's one of them where I've been sued a few times, unfortunately, for right to repair stuff and all that kind of stuff, so I'm not exactly immune to knowing what's what, but if they're going to sue you, they've got to kind of prove damages as well. So like what damage have we done to the company's reputation, or have we taken away sales? So if you're selling stuff that's active, then definitely. If you're selling, like for example, we were selling a shell on a Game Gear with Sonicon, got sued for that because it's taking away potential revenue or damaging their active brand. Whereas selling something that's like an old GBA, like everybody else does with the GBA text on, what damage are you causing to the company when they don't currently sell GBAs, they don't advertise? Now they're starting to re-release old ones. You might start finding retro businesses like ours start struggling with lawsuits from Nintendo because of that. But generally, if the company isn't actively selling stuff like anything to do with this board anymore, you offering a board remade with components that aren't even specific to this board, we're pretty safe, because this is a remade board, this one that somebody's retraced. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, you can copyright circuit board layouts as such, or protect them in any way. So I highly doubt there's any legal issues with doing that. The ROMs, however, you might have to leave the ROMs blank in the socket for people to program, because obviously the ROMs are very much likely going to be copyright material. It's a business and a hobby. It started as a hobby, but now this is a full-time business that employs all of the family and friends. So I do the repairs and run most of the other business stuff. Zach does repairs, and then we have online packing. We sell consoles, we build consoles. But yeah, it's a full business. Right, so that's them removed. Let's see if we still get audio. Yep, so they can still go. So that means the diagnostics chip isn't holding up the boot. So it basically means that these two chips won't be either. But again, let's just keep going. We keep trying to come up with reasons not to have to remove some chips, but keep remembering I did say that's what we're going to do. So D12, E12. And this is UE2. Oh yeah, they definitely do. I think most companies, it's one of them, either companies hate it for no reason or they hate it for a reason. It's like, I get why some people don't want to give away schematics and information because they fear that competition is going to clone your stuff, but in reality, people that make circuit boards, they don't need schematics. They'll just get your board and take the chips off, scrape down the board, scan it in, clone it in a day. Reverse engineer it. It's not exactly hard for dedicated companies if they wanted to clone stuff, so you're not really protecting against that. It's like with all my stuff, I don't necessarily I open source some stuff, but as soon as I open sourced like the wiki, when I started the wiki, the first thing I did was solve the audio issue on the GBA, which nobody had ever solved. So until I'd come about and figured out what's now known as the DHUM and the DHIS kit for the GBA, everybody just said, oh no, the amp on the GBA is just noisy. Nobody figured it out that it was actually the power regulation circuit and the feedback, and it's just a slow feedback that goes into the audio range. So I'd figured it out, open sourced all the knowledge, started a wiki for it. The very first thing that happened was a random guy decided to take that information on the wiki, rush a circuit board through a factory to release it before I released my official product. So I figured out how to solve the audio issue on a GBA, started making a product that would sell to fix that, but I give away the knowledge in the meantime because that's just me. I don't like gatekeeping knowledge, and all that led to was somebody cloning my invention, ultimately cloning it wrong as well, ironically, because all they did was use the photos on the wiki, which had caps in places that shouldn't be, because it was part of my testing and diagnostics phase. They didn't even read the article I wrote. They just literally scanned through, looked at where capacitors were, rushed a product to market. They still sell it to this day. Doesn't even work, doesn't do a thing at all for the noise. But the point was, as soon as you release information, people try and clone what you're doing anyway. They just use it for their own gain. Nobody really uses, like, no commercial person uses it fairly. But I still do it to this day. The wiki is now massive. I still release all my knowledge, but it does lead to, like, literally the guy that reverse engineered this, he pulled the PCB layout files because of exactly that. Somebody else did exactly that on him. They took the board, made it, sold it as their own, and didn't credit him. So unfortunately, you can't give stuff away for free without expecting people to abuse it. That's just the way of the world. So if you don't want that, don't give away your stuff for free. If you do give away your stuff for free, like I learned, you just have to stop moaning about it. You can't moan that other people are cloning your work. You just got to get on with it and be happy that, I guess, that's a positive, that people feel that your stuff's good enough that they need to clone it and claim it as their own. Morning, thanks for joining in. Glad you're liking the channel as well, guys. There are a couple of comments coming in. Yeah, that's still working. So what we're trying to do on here is fix this reloaded Mac SE30. Just basically completely dead at the minute. Taking this working one I fixed the other day and trying to now remove everything, so you can see the board's nearly empty. It's like we've removed absolutely tons from this board. So we've removed all the chips up here, all the way here. We've removed all the video circuit chips, all the RAM, all of the buffers down here, chips here, video ROM here. We're trying to basically get this so it's got the least amount of components on to still boot. What we've got left now is sound here, and I'm pretty sure these few are reset buttons and serial, but they are not going to affect anything now. Same with this. These are resistor packs that they can only pull up or fail. The resistors aren't going to short, they're going to break open and not. So these definitely, I can tell you for 100% certainty, these won't matter. The fuses we've checked, so we know the fuses are good. This won't matter. So we literally are down to, we could remove these two, which we might as well. And then I think we're going to have to either trust that we know that the sound isn't like, it's not going to stop booting. I know it won't, and we know that's good. I think we can safely say that. The FPU, I don't really want to remove because it won't stop it, but if it's faulty, it would. Just because we don't want to melt these. Like, I'm sure I'll get the chip off without melting, but regardless of what you do, whether you tape it, whether you put this over, no matter what you do, you're going to end up slightly tarnishing these. And we're certainly not going to remove all them. They take literally an hour. It took me 1 to 2 hours to remove and socket these. So I kind of want to leave him in. So I think we're almost at the point here. Well, I've got to remove these chips, obviously, to prove the same chips are off. But if we do that and this still has nothing, I think we might well be at the level of potential trace damage, because these are from the working board, so we know they're good. This is, so we know it's good. That is, we know it's good. That is, we know it's good. That isn't needed. The fact that Buzz toggles, I don't think this is going to be the issue. And it was a fully working system, so there's quite a bit of presumption still, but I think it looks like we need the ROM, we need these 3 pull-ups, we need the glue and the CPU, all these talk together. And then these 2 pals probably, they might not be needed directly, but I think they just pull a few critical signals up. It might be that you could still see buzz activity, but you won't get sound. So we've left them on and we know they work, so that's good. But what that'd leave us with is we've got to trace all traces between all these, all these, all these. That's a lot. But I think that's where we're going to be at. So what do you reckon? Do we go the whole way and remove the 2 sound chips, which loses as the reset, loses as the sound, and then we're going to have to just probe the data bus? Or do we just keep them on because the likelihood of the chips are definitely working, and we've also removed them to prove they're not needed, so that the chances of these being a problem is very, very, very low, but we're going to lose the ability to easily tell if something's working. It's going to make that job a lot harder. Or do we remove them and, you know, get rid of all this lot as well? I don't think personally we bother removing that now. I think the issue lies here. So while I'm removing just all these chips off this board, just let me know if you think we should remove the sound stuff as well. I personally don't think so. I think we should go on a trace damage hunt, unfortunately. I think that's where we're at. I think there's ultimately going to be something wrong with a trace somewhere. Yeah, I don't think so personally. I don't think it's anything related to sound. I'm pretty sure the sound is only on certain limited pins of boot that aren't even critical. Like, I think we could even, well, no, this will. I think that stopped. Yeah, when that was faulty, because originally this board had a faulty UE10. It didn't stop the SAD-MAC. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it didn't. That's what we were getting. We were getting the SAD-MAC tone. And it doesn't stop that even when that's faulty. So I think then, based on that, even if that was faulty or further up, it wouldn't stop the tone. You obviously wouldn't hear the tone, but it wouldn't stop the boot. And when we scoped the data pins, we weren't getting activity, so could almost do with maybe soldering a little baby transistor on and monitoring for the data bus, but I suppose we can just use the scope for that just as easy. And we did do a full visual on this board as well yesterday. We spent like probably 20 minutes looking over every area of the board, looking for bad like traces, so there's nothing visual either, which is another downer, because it means that if there is trace damage, it's going to be the one that you're never going to see. You're going to have to just probe and find a fault, basically. It's definitely a mystery, this one. We could be dealing with something like a dead CPU, and then we're really just down a rabbit hole of nothing, but it's been the longest longest repair of pretty much anything. And this little Q3 loves to get knocked off every time we go in this area. Sacrificial Q3, get back in place. There we go. The only question with trace damage, though, that doesn't make any sense, and that's what avoided me from doing all of this in the first place, was all we were doing from a literal fully working system was reflowing some solder here. That was literally might have been coincidence, but the difference from the board was working to the board was totally dead, as I was reflowing the pins on the SCSI because we thought we had a SCSI issue. So how we'd get trace damage at the bottom of the board is beyond me, but we're past the point of logic on this repair anyway. This is one that is definitely not going to be... I highly doubt we're going to find something that makes sense on this repair. I think we're just going to find something that makes no sense. Did Streamlabs just tally off for sending a long message? There's a goal to minimise the board, so it only boots. Yeah, basically the goal is the first stage of a Mac booting up, as far as I know, is pretty much you're trying to get the sad Mac tone that kind of says at least the BIOS is loaded, so the ROM is loaded, but something's gone wrong. So normally things like RAM go wrong, but anything can go wrong. So the first thing it does is, in fact, got all this fancy equipment. Let's see if I can use my little zoom in thing. There we go. The first thing that loads is this. This is where the system is, effectively the BIOS, if you will. It's a ROM chip, and here's the original in a a SIM package in a sense. So this has got the ROM on. I know this is good, or was good if it's failed, because I've seen it fully boot. So this is where the system loads. The 68K is the processor. So this processor loads the system, ultimately the code off here, and executes that code, and that's how the system boots up. This is like a chip that links things together. So a glue chip, it links all parts of the system together, but it's needed to at least link the 68K to the ROM. Ignore that, floating point unit's not needed. These two are also like the glue. They're just basic logic chips that you send one signal in a certain pin and it behaves differently and sends inputs and outputs randomly. So these three are like, if you will, gluing things together. This is this CPU, and this is where it loads the code from. And these are just pull-up resistors to make sure certain lines are pulled high. So really, you're just talking about a CPU talking to a BIOS, and then when it executes, it starts loading the BIOS that checks things like RAM. And if anything fails, it then talks to this chip, which is the sound chip, and this is the op amps that output sound to the speaker here, and that's what gets your sound to go dung dung dung. So if we power this one up, you'll hear all that happen. If the speaker's still on, which it isn't. No, it is, but yeah, this new speaker's terrible. Randomly fails. There you go. So if yeah, 1 second, let me zoom back out. If we press that button, the reset, you can hear that. So that's the sad Mac. That's what we're trying to get, which this still does, even with all this stuff off. But what we're trying to do is find out the minimum number of components that are needed for that, so that when we're trying to now find out what components or traces are damaged on this board, we're not dealing with hundreds of components. We're dealing with the fewest amount of components possible to get that sound. But this one was a fully working system and just completely stopped working. So just nothing. No sound at all. Just nothing at all, which is a shame. So that's why we're taking the kind of extreme measure, because I've just got nothing left to go at on this board. All the logical things I've presumed it would be, and all the things that make sense, we haven't found anything. So I figured this is a learning curve as much as anything else. We can learn more about the board, because I don't know much about them. I've only worked on these three, fixed 2 out of the 3 so far, but knowledge-wise, I've got almost what I'd class as zero knowledge on these. So it's not wasted time as such. I'm learning things and I'll document it all. But it's just more frustrating because I've got a hell of a lot of work on at the minute and I'd really want to figure this out. It's kind of a need almost that I want to figure out what's gone wrong. How has it gone from fully working to not working when... let's just zoom in. Let's do one last sanity check, even though we've come this far and removed everything. But I was just literally with my iron down here, reflowing pins like this from a fully working system. Reflowed the pins, was like, yep, they're good. Powered up, nothing. Went from completely booting and loading the system to absolutely nothing. So then we were looking all around here. We checked the fuses. So I'll check them again. We'll do everything, just go through the same steps. Get this off there, turn this on. We check these fuses, so you've got little pinholes here you can check. That's good. That's good, so the fuses are good. There's no shorts here. We haven't got that random short that we had on the other one either. No. We check the other side of the board, so in this area here, to make sure there's nothing. You know, we checked all this yesterday, looked everywhere. Basically, we've just looked everywhere we can in the area where the problem started, and we just can't find anything. So that's what took away a lot of the time on this. We were making the presumption it has to be a failed chip because it's a new board, so it can't be trace damage, and it has to be in this area because I worked here. So a lot of the things holding us back on this repair were the fact I've seen this working. It's been a fully working board, and it's less likely to be something outside of that area, because why would it just fail randomly? But things do, that can happen. So I think now we're down to every chip off that we can realistically remove. Other than this, shall we just maybe have a look again though? Why would this chip, what won't make sense is why would this chip randomly have a short on that wasn't there before? So that's again one of those things that wouldn't make sense, but let's just check it anyway. Because like I say, nothing really makes sense on this for what could have gone wrong. I don't understand what could have gone wrong. But yeah, see how nice and clean the connections are. There's no way that's a connection issue. Those are hard to see under the camera because of the position, but yeah, they're all good. And I'll double check under the scope. Yeah, so even if we go even closer, you can see it's not a solder problem. Like I do so many of these, well, soldering and PLCC chips and stuff, and I'm confident the solder's going to be good. It's like my last of my concerns. I'm not saying it won't be. I've had issues before, but we've spent that much time. Where am I? I can see my hand. That's the other hand. Jeez, there we go. I've spent so much time scrutinizing this board for solder that, again, it's going to be one of those very unlikely things. So now, really, where do we go from here? Because we are down to minimum. I think we are going to have to get the scope out and probe. I think that's where we're at next. So this is the minimum. You can take it realistically for, say, a normal person to be able to listen out to see if it's working. If you remove the sound chips, you're going to lose reset button. You're going to be dealing with no sound. So I don't think that's going to work. No, unfortunately, dishwasher didn't work. Did make it super clean though, but we've dirtied it back up. So look at all this dirt now. This was a lovely clean board. Like, you just have to go back on the stream to believe me. It's going to have to be dishwashed again. But see if any part of it, look how clean that is where we haven't touched. Nice, smooth, clean everywhere. But the front we've destroyed. We've literally taken everything off now. So that's as dirty as it started. I mean, well, it probably isn't quite as dirty, but it's obviously, it's got flux everywhere now. Where we're at with it as well is we've removed everything realistic that we can. We could remove the floating point unit, but we don't want to because the RAM. So we're taking a guess that that won't cause an issue with boot. It might well do, but I don't want to risk melting them just yet. I think we can always do that later. We don't want to remove the sound chip because we want to hear the sound. But we've also swapped these two out and this out multiple times, and we know these work. So again, likelihood of them being a problem is almost zero. So those don't need to be on the board, this and them. But for convenience, they are. Real-time clock, we've proved, isn't needed. We removed the crystal on the working one. It's still got the SAD-MAC. So in terms of issues, we have... I don't know what's just disconnected from my computer. Something does. We have now the point where we have minimal components, which is really this area here. So we zoom in. This is really the key, the heart of the system here. So we got CPU, glue chips, 2 PAL chips, 3 pull-ups, and a partridge in a pear tree. So I think we're going to have to start probing, get the scope out and look around here. I think that's what's coming next. I'm sure we'll get there, but we're going to have to now start probing around. So what I'm going to do is go get some coffee because I'm gasping. I'll probably get some emails done, get orders generated, like get the business side of things done. Now it's getting on a bit, and then I'll jump back on probably in an hour or two, and we'll carry on with this diagnostics. We'll start probing around. What we'll do is we'll have to map this board, really. So we're going to have to take this working board, probably probe around the glue chip, and I almost want to... I don't know whether pre-record a video. In fact, that's a good idea. What I'll do off camera is pre-record a video of me probing every single pin, every single one on the glue chip, every single one on the ROM chip, and every single one on these, I guess. Yeah, why not? So I'll get a video of this, and all these, and then I can play it back. So I could either overlay it somehow. Yeah, I could overlay it on screen like this, and we could have a video playing here of me probing while I'm probing them pins, and I'll do it nice and slow so we could go in like kind of order and make notes. I'd have to go quite slow though. I'd probably just be pausing the videos easier. But yeah, we'll map out everything all through, and then we'll look for differences basically. But I'd say where we're looking at is chip select lines. Nice. Make sure you're paying attention to the road. We're probably looking for, I think I've got it on the wiki. Let me show you what I've been hoping for this whole time. Which, well, when we come to trace damage, this is what you hope for. Pull this up. If we go to the wiki, go to Game Gear, is it? Yep, and then I think it's this new wiki now. They've updated it so when you click the header to expand it, closes the menu. It's well annoying. I think reading game cartridge I show it on. This would be helpful as well if I do this, showing out, visually all the pins, because schematics are one thing, but having a visual of the PCB with then images of where the pins are, there's the address pins, there's the data pins, they're color-coded. This takes me ages, but something we should probably do because it's super useful for, there you go, chip select line, read line, write line. If you're using this image and overlaying it over, say you had this overlaid as you're working like this, you can really easily probe and know where you're going, where you spend a lot of your time just wondering where pins are. Anyway, I digress what I was on about. So here's a normal scope, which you've seen, like 5 volt. 5 volt, 5 volt, and then a broken trace normally looks something like this. So just above 0. It's normally between 0 and 2 volts, I tend to find, so up to here at most. And you'll see broken signals. There's, is that another one? No, that's normal. So this is also what can throw you off as well. CMOS logic is very noisy, so this looks like it's bad. That's actually, if I'm not wrong, yeah, that is a good pin. So that looks like you might be, a bad pin, all this noise, but that's just how CMOS is. It's a shared buzz and you get noise. The main problem is normally it'll float between 0 and 2 volts with like a broken trace. That's what I'm kind of hoping to see. This is normal again, this kind of half peaking. Again, just how CMOS works when you're sharing the buzz between different chips. This is when one chip's releasing it and going to tri-state and then the other takes over. So it's also not this clean. Like you see this and it looks nice and clean because one thing's controlling the address versus multiple things controlling data buzzes. It looks messy. So you have to know what you're looking at. This one, oh, that's sound. So yeah, the main one we're looking for is, I think we've just got the one example by the looks of it. like this, a broken trace. That's what I'm hoping for. But it does look like we're down to getting the oscilloscope out and probing around on this. So I'm going to get some food and drink, and then I'll do a video of all of these pins, and then we'll come back and I'll probe this board and hope we've got to find something. It might be worth taking out these. Do I just have a quick go at taking these out? Because let me show you how painful this is. And I might break one doing it, to be honest, but yeah, that's the only side, is I know I've programmed these and I know they work. If I take one of these out and break it, we're in potentially a worse position than we were. But this is the tool. So this is literally the tool designed for the job. And obviously as you squeeze, it lifts out. So you can squeeze in. Is this the right one? Yeah. So you just open it out. You're meant to put them down the slots here. So see the slots either side. Get this out of the way. So you've got these slots where the tool gets the legs down like that. And you squeeze in, and you're meant to just squeeze in, and it lifts the chip up. Which, now I'm doing it on camera. Look at that. How nice and easy it's done it. This normally wrecks them pulling it out, but that's actually removed it fine. So we can remove these, and I can check them, which I suppose I'll do. I'll do that off camera. All I've got to do is point in the reader and check it works. But they were fully working. Or shall we just remove them, spray the sockets, and put them back in just for the sake for now? And just remember they're upside down. 1, 2, 3, 4, but upside down. Let's just do that before we finish up. Because even though they worked, sockets are sockets and sometimes they fail. So basically the way you use this tool is, because some people won't understand it, you put it through the holes, you push down, not pull up, and you squeeze in, basically. And then you pull out. But what normally happens is when you're pulling out, it can sometimes catch. These legs are soft, and they can just catch on the plastic and bend. And what I tend to find is you risk bending and snapping these legs. So I never really like to remove them from these sockets very often. So like that one, you see, before I even pull it out. See how it's really hard to tell on camera this way? Let's see if the other angle is any better. Let's zoom in. Yeah. So, see how it's down in this corner compared to the other corner that's fully up. So that's fully up. Let's try it on the, there you go. So it's on the vertical as well. That's fully up in the air. The other side's down. Now it'll probably lift out fine. But there, see how it's trying to bow. So that's exactly what I mean, where the tool isn't the best. Sometimes it just doesn't lift out straight and you end up with bending the legs. But luckily, all that pulled out fine. So it's not a problem for us this time. I can put them in the programmer and check, but I'll do that after because they're literally freshly programmed. Let's just spray this and put these back in, just in case these were bad. It'll suck if this was the only problem, but I didn't want to remove them from the socket because of that risk of damage in the first place. And it's just, again, in terms of likelihood of what's wrong, it's probably one of the lowest likelihoods of it being wrong, but kind of going to be disappointed if it is this. Even getting them back into pain. Yeah, see, I just don't like these sockets. There we go. I just know one slight misalignment and you're damaging these things. Right then, has this fixed anything? I highly doubt it. I'd like it to, because then we've solved it, but I highly doubt this has fixed it. Let's listen out for the audio. No. So it's unlikely going to be them. I'll still check them for programming. But as suspected, it's not them, which is a shame. You can try all the obvious as well. You can hot air components. Trust me, I've tried everything. I've on and off to this thing 1,000 times. I've hot aired things, pressed things, all in the hopes that this is just going to start working for us. But Nothing so far. Ow, burnt my finger. Nothing so far has made this work. So I think we are... I mean, I hope it's not the CPU, but I think we're broken trace somewhere. And sometimes broken traces will reveal themselves if we spray. Because IPA can have the effect of not only breaking traces, it can also heal them because it lowers resistance between dirt. No, so no amount of praying and hoping is going to get this thing working. I think we're going to have to scope. Yeah, this just does not want to boot, so no, it's going to have to be proper diagnostics then with a scope, which is very, very long-winded considering I know nothing about the boot up process of the Mac. So if I knew a bit more, we'd have some idea of what to expect, but we're going in this blind, so we're going to learn this together. So that's it for now. I'll just go get some drink, food set up for the day, get a bit of emails done, and then I'll be back on in a few hours. Hopefully you guys will join me then, and let's see if we get this thing working.